Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and today on the docket, Jeffrey Epstein, Varsity Blues, and a surprising dumb criminal of the day contestant. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like the channel, please subscribe. Hit that little bell if you want to receive notifications. And always leave us a comment because we want to know what you have to say. First on the docket, Jeffrey Epstein, the man that just won't go away, even when he's dead. So for those who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein, close friends to lots of people in power, but he was also a pedophile. He liked young girls. And he got off of a federal charge in exchange for a state case down in Florida years ago, which no one would have received based upon the information that was available to the then U.S. attorney. And I understand cases can be hard, difficult. They don't want to put victims through the trial. But ultimately, that was the decision they made. It was a sweetheart deal. Make a long story short, Jeffrey Epstein gets indicted in New York basically for the same series of crimes, basically trafficking in young girls. And he winds up dead in the detention center in New York City. The autopsy is done, and the pathologist who does the autopsy basically says at first that it's inconclusive. Well, then we bring in famed forensic pathologist Michael Baden. Famed forensic pathologist Michael Baden provided photographs from the Epstein autopsy. What the photographs show are that there's 3 fractures in Epstein's neck. Baden, who's practiced medicine for nearly 60 years, says that these 3 fractures would not have occurred via suicide and are much more consistent with that of a homicide determination. Dr. Baden was hired by Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, to observe the autopsy after the alleged sex offender was discovered dead in his Manhattan prison cell. And this was just a week after he was taken off of a suicide watch at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. The explanation that Dr. Baden gives for his conclusions are that he says that the fractures are more likely evidence of homicide than suicide. He says this normally does not happen in suicidal hangings because the ligature goes up under the jawbone, which is a tough bone, he said, and it doesn't fracture. In manual strangulations or ligature strangulations, fractures can occur. Obviously, this is going to fuel the speculation that something nefarious happened to Mr. Epstein because of his connections and ultimately the people that he could have potentially brought down who were frequent flyers on the Lolita Express. I think this is going to get good. Next on the docket, Varsity Blues, Lori Loughlin. She's back in court to be rearraigned on a 3rd superseding indictment. All right? The government is starting to pile it on for Miss Loughlin. Normally, when the government charges somebody, they do an original indictment, all right? And when you do an indictment to supersede or make changes, or which could be adding of charges or some sort of change in the indictment, you have to go back to the grand jury. Twice, that's kind of normal. So you get a superseding indictment. But then you get a 2nd and a 3rd superseding indictment, and they keep adding more charges to you. First of all, I would say it starts to look like they're piling on, and it's all part of the harassment package because Ms. Loughlin wants to exercise her constitutional rights. But oftentimes the government doesn't like when people exercise their constitutional rights because, 1, they think that they're guilty. 2, they think that they shouldn't have to do that, and why are these people not accepting responsibility? And 3rd, they don't like the possibility that they could in fact lose. And if the government overcharges the case, it looks like they're overreaching, and suddenly the juries can sometimes get sympathetic toward the defendant. In this case, it would be Miss Loughlin. Now, I wouldn't hold my breath on this necessarily for Miss Loughlin. because of so much publicity that has been received not only in this case, but companion cases where people have pled guilty, and it just seems unlikely that, her daughters and the amount of money that was paid, some $250,000 plus, for her kids to get on the crew team when they never crewed, and they took photos when they know they weren't on the crew team, seems a little weird, and she probably want to step up and accept responsibility. But the fact of the matter is, she has an absolute constitutional right to say, government, you charged it, you prove it. And the government shouldn't then start piling on. But the government does that all the time when people do that, when people exercise their constitutional rights. The government hates it when defendants do that. And so what the government does then is then start raising the ante so you have more to lose, and suddenly you're in a position where you need to look at taking a plea bargain because the consequences at that point become so great. We'll see if Miss Laughlin breaks. There's reports that she's under a lot of stress. She should be. She's looking at going to federal prison. She could have a felony conviction. It's going to affect her family, friends, relationships. All the collateral consequences of having a federal conviction are a real thing. And so it's a stressful moment. And if she thinks this is stressful, just wait until a trial starts. People don't realize how stressful trial can be. I have been in trial and worked all day listening to, objections and questions and everything. And then the client who's just been sitting there all day tells me how exhausted he is. Okay. Miss Laughlin has no idea how stressful trial is going to be. It is the ultimate theater that she doesn't get to really participate in until the very end. And next today, we have an unlikely contestant for the Dumb Criminal of the Week. So today we have an unlikely contestant in the Dumb Criminal of the Week. And the contestant in this particular case is the Greenwood Village Police Department. And we have to go back to June of 2015. And in this quiet little neighborhood of Greenwood Village, there was a home. And at some point, there was an armed Walmart shoplifting suspect who randomly barricaded himself after fleeing the store while the police are chasing him. And for 19 hours, the suspect was held up in a bathroom as the SWAT team fired gas munitions and 40 millimeter rounds through the window. And ultimately, the Greenwood Village Police Department drove an armored vehicle through the doors, tossed flashbang grenades inside, and used explosives to blow out the wall. The suspect was ultimately captured alive, but the home was utterly destroyed. It was ultimately condemned by the very city that destroyed it. Understand, yes, this person was an armed suspect for shoplifting. Really? Come on, please use a little common sense here, right? So the homeowner in this particular case, John Lech, goes to the Greenwood Village Police Department and says, hey, you guys destroyed my house. I'd like you guys to pay for it to fix it. Greenwich Village says, sorry, can't do that. Mr. Lech then sues in federal court, stating that his house was destroyed and the only thing that they were offered was $5,000 in temporary rental assistance and their insurance deductible. And so the matter makes its way through the court, and ultimately the 10th Circuit of the United States here in Denver, Colorado. And so what the 10th Circuit here, based here in Colorado, ruled unanimously what the city of Greenwood Village owes Mr. Lechus? Zero. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because Mr. Lechus sued, saying that under the Fifth Amendment, that it was a taking. And under the Fifth Amendment, he has the right to be compensated when the government takes his property. But the court said that the city of Greenwood Village was acting within its police power when it damaged his house, and that didn't qualify for a taking under the Fifth Amendment. And although the court acknowledged that this may seem very unfair, But when police have to protect the public, they can't be burdened with the condition that they compensate whomever is damaged by their actions along the way. Are you kidding me? Really? Are you kidding me? So apparently, not only in the city of Greenwood Village, but any other jurisdiction really within the 10th Circuit, the police can go around destroying whatever the hell they want and do not have to compensate the property owner in any way. So, although we could probably make the court one, we're not going to do that because I don't want to get in trouble. But second of all, the Greenwood Village Police Department qualifies as this week's contestant for the Dumb Criminal of the Week because what they did is in fact criminal, and the fact that they have no responsibility to pay for it is in fact criminal. That's all we have for you today. I'm heading out of here to go fly to Durango, Colorado, but I will be back tomorrow for another edition of Crime Talk. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.